but today. Thank you again, Chairman.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I rise today to share some reflections on events commemorating the first arrival of enslaved Africans to English colonies to North America, including a forum my colleague Representative Donald McEachin hosted in Richmond earlier this summer and the events that took place on Fort Monroe National Monument last month. It was my great honor, along with Representative Luria, to welcome Congressional Black Caucus Chairwoman Karen Bass and fellow CBC member Lacey Clay to Hampton Roads for the solemn occasion marking the 400th anniversary of the first landing of enslaved Africans to English-speaking North America. The history of our nation cannot be fully understood or appreciated without knowing and acknowledging the stories of those first, what they said was 20 and odd Africans and the millions who followed them. This was a goal that Senator Kaine and I had in mind when we drafted H.R. 1242, a bill to establish a federal 400 Years of African American History Commission. The goal of that commission was to explore ways to commemorate not just the events of 1619, but also to recognize all that has happened since. The City of Hampton and the Commonwealth of Virginia did a tremendous job in organizing events, including those last month, to commemorate and reflect on what happened in 1619. But it is incumbent that we as a body support the ongoing and necessary work of that commission, but beyond 2019, as we committed to do when we passed H.R. 1242. Senator Kaine and I are working with our colleagues in Congress to secure federal funding to support the work of the commission, which is mandated under H.R. 1242 to plan programs to commemorate the history, recognize the resiliency of the African American community, acknowledge the impact that slavery and legalized racial discrimination has had on our country, and educate the public about those impacts and contributions to our community. The Commission is also directed to provide technical assistance to state, local, and nonprofit groups working to further the commemorations, as well as ongoing research on our complicated history. $1 million was included in the House version of the fiscal year 2020 Department of Interior Appropriations Bill to support the Commission's work, and that legislation passed the House earlier this year. I'm committed to making sure that these funds are actualized, and thankfully there is significant precedent for federal support for commissions like this. Additionally, in recognizing the tremendous task before the commissioners and the funding challenges they faced, Senator Kaine and I are also actively exploring ways to extend the work of the commission for several years beyond its present July 2020 termination date. This part of our nation's history is far too important to let this opportunity pass. Every American should be afforded the chance to understand and learn from it. As we gather at the site of where slavery first arrived on our shores 400 years ago, we reflected on our complicated history. We celebrated the resiliency and many contributions of the descendants of those slaves, and we are committed to follow the research and effectively address the issues that continue to plague our communities, including attacks on our voting rights, police brutality, environmental injustice, and disparities in education, housing, wealth, and criminal justice. So as we reflect on the events of 1619, let us all commit to constructively address those horrific years of slavery and legal racial discrimination, and move forward with strength and wisdom to resolve with the resolve of our ancestors. I want to thank the gentlelady from California for convening